What's up, nerds? PaulMConti here with Mr. Dakades for another edition of WarHAMMERED, where we drink adult beverages and talk about tiny plastic toys. We're going to be doing a deep dive on our Nurgle Maggotkin book that has just come out this week. We invited a few other folks, couple of non-responders, and in the greatest irony of all time, Tom from Warhammer Weekly is still incapacitated with the flu the week that the Nurgle release comes out. So he will not be joining us as far as I know.
But that's how we know he's Nurgle's chosen.
Yeah. I mean, clearly he is bringing the blight to his entire household, at least.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah. So we've already had this little discussion off air, but what are we drinking this evening?
I'm making Mortal Realms Mules. It's
is this like an actual drink, or is this just you?
No, I just made it up. It's vodka, ginger beer, a little bit of lime, a little bit of ice.
Very nice. I am drinking one of my favorites right now, and I feel like this is like a micro distillery, so I have to like give them props. This is Bar Hill Gin. It's a small independent distillery up in Vermont, and their shtick is that they make gin that is infused with honey, so it really kind of cuts out some of the more harsh flavors that are often in gin that are kind of turnoffs to people. Super smooth. And the particular one I'm drinking is actually my second favorite. They have an even better one that is this same gin that is aged in used whiskey barrels. And that is like the most ridiculously complex alcohol flavor I have ever had. It's called Tomcat. Little distillery up in northern Vermont. Definitely worth checking out. I don't know where they distribute, but if you can find this stuff, it is worth every penny. Even if you don't like gin, it's probably worth a shot.
Good. I've got the vodka I'm drinking is just this Tito's stuff. If you don't want a hangover, you should drink this.
Is that a plastic bottle?
No, it's glass.
Oh, there you go. See, like that's for me, like that's the line for me with vodka is like if it's in a glass bottle, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm drinking well vodka, which is the worst.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, I feel like I can drink well drinks. Like, I feel like bars get it completely wrong where they're like, yeah, like the first hour we're open, like free, like half price well drinks. Like, no, you need half price well drinks at 1 o'clock in the morning when everybody's already wasted. It's like you want to keep the party rolling, and you need to do it for cheap, because you have tried to impress all of the girls over at that table in the corner with a nice big bottle of Grey Goose. Now you're out of cash, but you still need to entertain yourself after you get denied. So you need to go with this gin in a plastic bottle fermented from potatoes that has some Slavic name no one can pronounce.
Made from French fries. I like that better.
Yeah.
That happened to it. We actually drank a bar out of good vodka over the Christmas break. And that's where we're like, oh, I guess we'll drink well vodka. That'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did not feel good the next day.
Yeah. So your initial, before we get into the deep dive on this thing, what are your initial impressions of this book?
I've read through the book several times. It's crazy. I think you can build really any list and have it be great. Have it work great no matter where you're playing. You can do a few things really well. You could really spray out a lot of mortal wounds. You can really debuff armor saves, or you can really debuff to hit. But the trick with everything is so expensive, it's like hiring a contractor. You pick 2, you can't do all 3.
Yes. Yes, I definitely agree. My big takeaway from this book is that I think this is the book that at least out of the ones that I've seen so far that GW has done, that does the best job of writing a battle tome that works in all 3 ways to play really effectively. Like, it's really great for open play, it's really great for narrative play, and I think there's some really competitive lists that you can get out of this for match play.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I still have to go through the Path to Glory rules and stuff like that. I've been stuck on digesting artifacts, command traits, and war scrolls, and of course battalions.
Yeah, but I feel like and to top it off, the models are awesome. The new stuff they released is absolutely spectacular. The existing model range is really good. The stuff out of Forge World is outstanding. Like, I feel like this is just in general an absolute home run of the battle tome.
Absolutely. The Great Unclean one, I can still remember when one of the first few years I started in the hobby, maybe 2009 or so, when I think I just started my Death Guard army. Seeing the Forge World Great Unclean one, I was like, oh, I want one of those, but Forge World is so expensive. And then the rumors were starting that a plastic one was coming out. So I feel like I've been waiting a long time for this Great Unclean one. Very, very excited.
And he's really good.
He's awesome. He was really easy to put together. All the seams are pretty much hidden by fatty folds. Super easy to magnetize because all the hands can be put together separately, and it's just going to be super, and the heads as well. It's going to be super easy to magnetize. So you can switch between all the different weapons and Rodigus.
Yes.
It's cool.
Yeah. I really just have to generally, and GW is not paying me to say this, although GW, if you would like to pay me to say it, anytime you'd like to throw some, store credit or models or even just previews of information my way, I will gladly say nice things about this battle tome. I will not, however, say nice things about the eBay distributor that I purchased this battle tome from, because I still don't have it. I think it may have been, it's making its way up from Florida, like by carrier pigeon, I think.
By alligator to the sewers?
Yeah. Like, I think they just fed it to an alligator and flushed it down a toilet, and they're hoping it gets here someday. But it has literally been in transit for 7 days. I'm not going to name names of who it was because I don't want to individually trash someone. I will say, though, that, there's definitely eBay dealers that are better than others. There's other distributors that are better than others. Certain things you might just be better off buying at your friendly local game store. I feel like battle tomes are now on that list for me.
Yeah, exactly. Support your LGS.
Yeah.
Battle tome or whatever.
Yeah, because they have a sad proclivity to close and go bankrupt. So support them when you can reasonably. I really wish we had a local game store in our area that didn't sell absolutely everything at MSRP all the time. Or, the one that does offer discounts only offers discounts if you buy like a $50 a year membership that you have to spend $500 before you even break even. So
yeah.
Anyway, so you want to dig into the book?
Yes, let's do it.
Do it. I need to find all the things. And here's my actual page. And let's share my screen.
Neither one of us have a physical copy of the book yet, both digital.
Yeah, and we're gonna lock this on me,
I'm
and
infinite.
woo! Oh man, if you stay here, it just keeps going. That's kind of cool. Anyway, so are we seeing the book on your end?
Now we got it.
All right. So, there is a lot of awesome fluffy stuff throughout all of this. That's more for other people to talk about.
Yeah. I haven't even been through that yet, and I know I'm missing out by not reading all that yet.
Yeah, I mean, the art is beautiful. They definitely did an amazing job with all of the artistic elements of this. Like when I say this thing is a home run, they just hit every element out of the park. Like, absolutely.
Yep.
So allegiance abilities are Cycle of Corruption is our primary allegiance ability. You've got a wheel of 7 different stages of corruption. You roll a d6 at the start of the game to see where the wheel starts, and it ticks up 1 every battle round. And as we'll go through later, there's also a spell in that all Nurgle wizards know that can move the wheel to whatever place you would like it to be. And there's also a command trait that lets you tick it up or back once per game, which can be pretty useful. Although I don't know that that's necessarily the one you'll pick, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. The point is, wheel ticks up 1 each turn, potential ways to manipulate it. Going around the wheel, and I accidentally clicked the thing. Okay. So we have a mixture basically of like buffs, debuffs, healing, and damage. That's basically what I kind of grabbed from this. 1 and 2 are buffs. So 1 is the unnatural vitality. All of your Nurgle guys add 2 to movement. That's really huge.
Yep.
Feckin' Vigor, all of your Nurgle dudes get +1 to wound. The Burgeoning, this one is interesting. This can do a combination of damaging your opponent or healing your own guys.
That's really nice if you end up summoning a bunch of the trees.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Because it's all within 1 inch of a terrain feature.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Plague of Misery, your opponent has to re-roll battle shock tests of 1. That's really good, especially considering there's a few different things that like trigger on a battle shock test of 1.
All the demons, right?
Well, it does not affect Nurgle.
Right, yeah, I was gonna say, except for Nurgle.
Yeah, like dwarves ignore battle shock on 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Free Guild ignores battle shock on 1s. And there's probably stuff miscellaneous here and there that also does stuff on a battle shock roll of 1. So that alone is effective, and also it just makes your opponent bleed more models out, which is really super strong.
Yeah. I'd still like to knock it up 1 more to number 5 there. Nauseous Revulsion.
Yes. I was initially not that big of a fan of this. And then I reread it, and I realized that this is making your opponent re-roll all wound rolls of 6 or more.
Yeah, so that's modifiers, everything.
Right. And most, if not all, of your debuffs to your opponent's attacks are debuffing to hit.
So their only chance is really a 6. And if you're removing it with number 5 here, it could be Whiff City.
Well, the thing is that like it's Whiff City, like all of your debuffs are for the most part debuffing their rolls to hit, and then this is making them re-roll their 6s to wound. So it's decreasing their odds to wound for those few hits that get through.
Yep.
So what I originally on first read was like, oh, this is kind of like a non-bow with the rest of your Nurgle stuff. Like, no, no, no. This is stacking debuffs. It's just debuffing in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
And then rampant disease. You pick D3 enemy units other than Nurgle within 12 inches of each other, and they each suffer D3 mortal wounds. And then number 7, or the one without a number that you can't set to at the beginning of the game, corrupted regrowth. Units, all Nurgle units heal D3 wounds.
Which is nice. I don't know. I think rampant disease maybe should have been number 7, at least as far as how I'm considering building a list. Because I'm considering a monster mash list with as much mortal wound output as I can get.
Yeah. The ordering of this is interesting because it kind of goes in an order that makes sense. You have number 1 is movement that gets you into combat.
Yep.
Then your next one is buffing your wound rolls. So now you're in combat and now you're doing more damage. Then you have the burgeoning, which is a combination of healing and damage. Now you're into the debuffs. Debuffing your opponent's battle shock test, debuffing your opponent's wounds, and then doing mortal wounds, like wherever you want on the table against them, and then finally healing your guys.
Yep.
Like, I feel like it's a fairly logical sequence, and pretty much wherever you land on the wheel can kind of guide where you want your direction to go. But I honestly see myself in a lot of situations with the builds that I've been thinking of. It's like, okay, turn 1, you really want unnatural vitality.
Yep.
To get that boosted movement. And then I think I would probably cast the spell on the second turn to go over to Nauseous Revulsions and then be perfectly okay with that rolling into D3 wounds. And then turn 4 seems like a really good place to heal all your guys.
Yep.
And then, depending on the circumstance, going to Feck and Vigor is also a pretty good place to be. It seems like there's things that are kind of in sequence that work well together.
I love the idea of bouncing back between number 5 and 6.
Yes.
I love that. I love the reign of filth, all the mortal wounds going everywhere, all over the board, each phase.
Yeah, and really the thing you can do is that number 6 is a trigger at the start of your hero phase, so it ticks over and then that ability happens.
Yep.
So you can get that ability, do the D3 mortal wounds to D3 units, then cast the spell to bring it back to Nauseous Revulsions.
Exactly. That's exactly my plan.
And just kind of go between those two over and over again. and after rampant disease on like any given turn, like it may just be okay to go to corrupted regrowth.
Right, you might need it at that point, maybe.
Yes.
I think it's fun. The other thing that Nurgle has a lot of is a lot of healing, a lot of artifacts and spells and things you take to heal. You kind of don't need to focus on it. It just happens. Like your resiliency, kind of don't need to focus on that either.
Yeah. I would say that the thing that is strongest overall thematically in this book is debuffing your opponent.
Yes.
And it's not just like a one-note debuff. Like there is a multitude of different avenues you can go down, different ways to do it. It is just brutal to your opponent. Like just rude. The one thing that I have to say is that I feel a little bit conflicted about with this book is that I think for some lists, this is going to be a very unfun list to play against. Like, your opponent is not going to walk away from the table that happy with you.
Yeah. I can agree with that. When you tell them no, when they have no saves and they're -3 to hit and they have to reroll 6s, they're not going to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're mortal wounding them out all over the board, everywhere. There's nowhere they can hide.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just a lot of abilities that just are like not just doing mortal wounds, but like doing mortal wounds that don't necessarily have like a range requirement.
That's exactly what I was about to touch on. Their range is crazy.
Yeah.
It's close to right. I mean, if Nurgle, which they can manipulate their movement to be across that board in the first turn. Yeah, once they're within that 6 or 7 inch range for most of those spells and artifacts and command traits, it is just bad news. It's like Iron Jaws getting or Murder Host getting into your lines first turn. It's just gonna be that bad.
Yep. And as we'll see later on, like the spell to change the location on the wheel goes off on a 7, but there's ways to get that down.
Multiple ways.
There's not a lot of books that let you decrease casting costs of spells. So I think we've done anything else on the wheel that you wanted to talk about, or
no? I think we're good with the wheel, which it's great. I mean, you could focus on the wheel and do crazy stuff, or you can just take what you get from it and focus on other things. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. I mean, I love any army that gives you a lot of options. And this is a lot of relatively small buffs and debuffs that, like, taken at the right time, played in the right way, are really good.
Yeah.
At other times, it's like, you know, if you were, like, let's say you were just on nauseous revulsions for, like, the whole game, there are going to be a lot of turns where that doesn't matter. But there's some, like, you have the ability to move the wheel around. So when that's not the circumstance you need, you just change where the wheel is. Or at least try to.
Yep, exactly. You can dictate the flow of the game that way. It's crazy. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I mean, I love armies that have a lot of knobs and dials to turn, and this one has a literal wheel to turn. So I'm all about it.
All the bells and whistles are in this army. You're going to need counters.
Yeah, and they have literal bells and whistles too.
Yeah. Got the Bile Piper.
Oh, yeah, he has such an unfortunate war scroll. I love that model to death, but
but you could still get it, and it'd be a great unit upgrade for your Plague Bearers.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a good replacement musician for your Plague Bearers, or even just using him as a Poxbringer or something like that. Like, you could sub him in somewhere as something because he's a cool model, but
they're not that great. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, his actual war scroll is disappointing. All right, so the Garden of Nurgle. In the Garden of Nurgle, baby, don't you know that I love you?
I hope that's a Slayer version you're singing. Is that the Slayer version?
I didn't know Slayer, like, covered that.
For, I forgot the name of the movie, but they did it way back in the 90s. They did a cover of that, and it was awesome.
Yeah. I would imagine any cover by Slayer is going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So basically, you get a Feculent Gnarl Maw for free at the beginning of the game. The interesting tidbit about this is that you set up the Feculent Gnarl Maw before, like, after you set up terrain, but before you choose sides.
Right. So that's the big thing. Like, where do you put it? You might, you know, if somebody chooses the board side you put it in, most people aren't going to. They might get a mortal wound or so. Like, what do you do to work around that? Is my sort of thing I was pondering.
I think it basically goes in the middle of the board somewhere.
That's my main thought. But if you were going to place it in a deployment zone, could be interesting to see what happens, because it could be end up being trouble for your opponent if they pick to be around it, depending on how fast they move or what they do, I guess.
Yeah, and
around it and take mortal wounds, or they're going to move up and then you can summon stuff off that tree.
Yes. Very valid points. I think what's very interesting with the Feculent Gnarl Maw is going to be its ability to be a
springboard,
like an impassable terrain piece.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, so you can block charge lanes.
Yeah, like this just blocks charge lanes all day, and it gets in the way. The base on this thing is like 5 inches wide.
And it's cool. I mean, once you start getting those contagion points going, you can get as many as these on the board as you want and really block things up. Especially if you've been saving those points. Like, say your opponent's getting ready to charge you, you know, or setting up to, you can probably charge a couple of these and ruin their plans.
Yeah, I just did some like napkin math with the Horticulus Slimux battalion.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe within 5 turns, you can get at least, in theory, possibly more, but you can get 14 of these guys on the table.
You know, what's funny is I was just thinking 12 is an outrageous number, but yeah, I guess 14 is
Well, yeah, I mean, you get like 1 per turn with that battalion.
Yep.
Plus the one you start at the beginning of the game, plus the one for Horticulus. So that's 7. And then it's like you summon the rest 7 contagion points at a time. So that puts you at like definitely 12. I don't know if you could spend contagion points on more than one thing a turn.
Oh,
it's at least 12.
I just assumed you could burn as many as you had.
Yeah. Well, we'll see in a second, because the next page is about contagion points.
Yeah, so that's, and then you have 14 of those. Your enemy's army is going to be all over the place. Then you're throwing mortal wounds out on them too, and healing yourself no matter where you are too. That's really, with 14 on the board.
It is It is 1 or more if you have at least 7 contagion points. So you can summon more than 1 tree per turn. So then now we have to go through the math of how many contagion points do you actually get.
Wow.
And then what's like the max number of those you can put on the table. I mean, theoretically, like you're getting at least 3 per turn for having units in your territory. You're getting 3 per turn for having units in your opponent's territory. You're getting D3 for each Feculent Gnarl Maw. And 1 for having unopposed territory. So like you're going up, you have like a parabolic increase of the number of contagion points you get if you just keep using them to summon more Feculent Gnarl Maws.
Right. And currently,
first turn, you're probably going to get like, you're going to get 4 plus D3 on your first turn. So average 6. Then first turn, you plant 1 with Horticulus, plant 1 with the battalion. So now that's 3 Feculent Gnarl Maws on the table. You move your troops around so you have guys in your opponent's territory. So turn 2, you're getting 6 plus 3d3. And you get the contagion points in your hero phase and spend them in your movement phase.
At the end of the movement phase?
Yes. So 3d3 is 6 plus 6 is 12. You had 6 on the start of the phase, so that's 2 more Feculent Gnarl Maws at the end of turn 2, plus an additional 1 planted by a hero in that battalion. So it's an extra 3, so you're up to 6 Feculent Gnarl Maws at the end of turn 2.
And that's 3 free mortal wounds and 3 free... maybe not. Maybe 3 free healed models too, right? Let me see this again.
Yeah, I mean, you could just do stupid stuff with this, like make it impossible for your opponent to get to objectives.
Yeah, and that's what I was like, the stuff I had in the back of my mind today. I was thinking about how many trees you can put down.
Yeah. I mean, I think... like, you get 1 tree for free at the beginning of the game, so that's like a give me to have at least 1 Feculent Gnarl Maw.
Yeah.
You're going to average like 6 a turn, like 6 contagion points a turn, probably, is my guess.
Yep.
6 or 8. Except for first turn. So you probably want like 5 or 6 Feculent Gnarl Maws in your collection to drop on the table.
And that's where the fun of conversions comes in. So they're not all looking the same. Yep.
Yeah, because these things are freaking expensive too.
Yeah, what are they, 30, 35? Somewhere around there they are.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely going to see a lot of these converted, just like we've seen a lot of the Sylvaneth Wildwoods converted.
All Nurgle players need 1.
Yeah, you need at least 1. I'll probably at some point like get a burst of extra cash and just buy a bunch more of them. And
yeah, they're $30 each, which is not bad. I'll probably convert most of them, but it'll be fun to plant a bunch of trees like a lumberjack in reverse.
Yes, I think that would be a really fun narrative thematic list. To just play like the lumberjack or like the farmer list.
Farmer list, yep. The Johnny Appleseed list.
Yeah, somehow get like a little straw hat onto Horticulus. That would be pretty sweet. But let's not forget, like, you're not just summoning trees. You can summon like anything.
Yeah, nerdlings, plague bears. Let's go to the next page. Oh, we're already there, sorry.
Oh yeah,
I'm flipping all over the place, so I'm a little behind.
Yeah, it's all good. So the interesting things that I think we have to call out on this is that the stuff for 7 is less than a complete unit, except for the Feculent Gnarl Maw. Like 1 Nurgling base or 5 Plague Bearers. Which the stuff for 14 starts to get into complete units.
Yep.
So, I mean, this to me signals the potential for a couple of different things. Possibly going back in GHB 2018 to individual unit or individual model pricing.
Which is kind of funny because I was looking at the Everchosen War Scrolls. Just take your units in counts of 7, you get to use these abilities. Which right now if you're taking Nurgle, you're buying a full War Scroll, but taking 3 models out.
Right.
Multiples of 7. So yeah, if you're buying individual models again, like the Warhammer days of old, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the other flip side possibility to this is that we will get an FAQ or something in GHB 2018 that basically says that if you're summoning through a spell, then it costs reinforcement points. If you're summoning through some other means, it does not cost reinforcement points.
I almost think that we're going to see that a little sooner than... I think we'll see that with Malignant Portents.
That is very possible.
Death Battle Tome, I think we're going to see something totally new. I think they have to change the way summoning works. Because it's funny, because when Age of Sigmar first came out, I mean, I still love it. It's my favorite game. but I loved it. I thought it was so fun. And then you have those people that love to break things. I admit I like to break things too. But I had a friend that was like, I'm just going to take the gash and I'm just going to summon everything and fill the board. You won't be able to do anything. I'm like, oh, sounds crappy. Let's play something else, you know?
Yeah.
But
the other possibility was taking Tzeentch Demon Princes and chain summoning them.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think if you look at this chart and the number of contagion points you can reasonably get each turn, I feel like it's actually pretty fair for this table to not cost you reinforcement points.
You could gear up a little bit to gain them, but not a lot. There's not a ton of ways, except for summoning a ton of Narmals. That's
I mean, I feel like realistically, you need to hit 21 before you drop anything meaningful on the table.
Yep.
And like, that's a lot. Like that might be turn 4. And at that point, it might be too little too late.
Maybe, or it could be the other way around too. But
it could just be the nail in the coffin at that point, but
could be the nail.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do some test games with this, just playing around with it and seeing what happens if you play with contagion points and assume that anything you summon off contagion points does not cost reinforcement points.
Right.
And see how the game actually plays out. Because your opponent also has the opportunity to kind of control how many contagion points you get. They can deny your trees by standing next to them. They can, they can oppose you in territories so you don't get the extra +1.
Right.
They purge you out of a territory to stop you getting the 3. And if they're God, what is it? Isn't there some Iron Jaws battalion that lets them like burn down pieces of terrain?
There used to be an artifact in destruction, which I think is gone now, but I have my GHB right here. I actually have the artifact right here. I think they got rid of it. It's not destruction. Maybe it is IJ. Let me look it up real quick. I think that was a destruction thing because Iron Jaws had no artifacts like that.
Yeah.
And I think they took it out. I don't see it. Yeah, there was an artifact that they could destroy pieces of terrain.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that, if it's still there or not, but I mean, the ability potentially to like burn down those blight trees is really like that's potent if they can do that.
Yeah, I don't see. I'm reading it right now. I don't see anything in Iron Jaws or destruction any longer.
Yeah,
I think it was too powerful, and they're like, "All right, let's take it away."
Yep. So command traits. So we have these divided down into Rotbringers, demons, and mortals. Everybody gets the same first 3. So it's basically 3 that are for everybody, and then each one has 3 unique ones. So the first one is Grandfather's Blessing. That's the one that lets you once per game move the cycle of corruption up or back 1 stage.
Not bad. Not something I would personally take unless I was building a list to turn the wheel, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think the spell is easy enough to get off that you don't need that.
And anybody can take it in your army, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody has that spell, which is also, I think, really interesting that it's just like, okay, every wizard in your army can do this.
Yeah, here's an arcane bolt for the whole army.
Yeah. And that also means that all of your wizards know at least 5 different spells.
It's true.
All right, so second one is Living Plague. At the start of your hero phase, roll a die for each enemy within 1 inch of your general. On a 4-up, the unit being rolled for suffers 1 mortal wound, and you receive 1 contagion point.
Now if they change summoning, if you can summon without reinforcement points, that really ups the value of that.
Yes, because this is just like take, a really durable general and just dive him into your opponent.
And if you think about it, a great unclean one with its large base, and if hordes are meta, could be nasty.
Right. Hulking Physique, you're pretty standard. Add 1 to the wounds characteristic. Oh no, that's add 1 to wound rolls for your general in the combat phase. I'm gonna say that one's actually probably like the trashiest bit of all of these. Since your Cycle of Corruption has a +1 to wound, and a lot of the book already wounds on 3s.
Yep.
So I think that one's kind of a miss. Excuse me. So specifically for Rotbringers, we have Bloated with Corruption. Roll a die each time you allocate wounds to your general. On a 4-up, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound after all attacks have been made.
I love that. Can you imagine that, though, if it was a demon, like in a great and clean one? But anyway, that if you're, I don't know, if you have pretty good save, or you can buff up your save, it might be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the problem with Bloated Corruption is that there's just not a lot of good targets to throw that on.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I mean, I think the ideal candidate is probably Lord of Afflictions.
Yep.
I mean, he's pretty durable. He's fast. He has high wound count. But the question is, like, do you actually want to make him your general? Because he seems like he's much better acting as like the old like captain on a Pegasus,
yep,
like floating around just doing shit and fucking up your opponent.
Yep. Yeah, he's great.
Yes. Avalanche of Rotten Flesh, add 2 to run and charge rolls for your general. Especially since the Feculent Gnarlmaw lets you run and charge near him. That's adding 4 to your general's movement, plus 2 if he's in that Cycle of Corruption, plus 3 if he's near
Great and clean one with the bell.
So that's plus 9 to their movement for the turn.
So if you give that to the Lord of Affliction, wow.
Oh yeah, he's just slamming into your opponent's lines turn 1.
Interesting.
And then Resilient gets a 6-up ward save.
Which is okay, but you're already, I mean, you're playing this book, you're already pretty resilient and you have enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few Rotbringer heroes that, like the Rotbringers are the ones that just don't automatically come with ward saves on them, so it might not be bad.
Resilient for the most part, right?
Yeah. Oh, I apologize. All right, so demons. We've got Tainted Corruptor. At the start of your hero phase, pick 1 terrain feature that is within 3 inches of your general. For the rest of the battle, it gains the Sickness Blossoms scenery rule from the Feculent Gnarlmaw or War Scroll, in addition to any other rules it already has. So that's the one where it can heal Nurgle guys and do mortal wounds to your enemy.
That one I really like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a great thematic army with that. Like, if the concept of the army you're building is to just make the universe a minefield of mortal wounds for your opponent, It's just like, okay, every turn I'm dropping a tree and I'm turning something into
it should have
another terrain feature that does mortal wounds to you.
Yep.
I mean, it can really just set up the board in a way that it's like no matter where your opponent is standing, they're taking mortal wounds every turn.
And I absolutely love that. Love it.
Yep. Nurgling Infestation. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can inflict D3 mortal wounds on an enemy unit within 3 inches of your general.
Not bad. Not great. The range isn't great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it might be like the thing that just like ices off like the last little lingering bits of something. It seems very situational.
Right. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And I'm more in the school of thought that you just avoid that situation.
Right. I'd much rather the last one because that's in each hero phase. You have a chance of doing a mortal wound for the game.
Yep. Yeah. So at the start of your shooting phase, pick enemy unit within 6 inches of your general. Roll a die for each model in that unit within 6 inches of your general. It suffers 1 mortal wound for each 5 up.
I love that one.
Yeah. It's just like your general is poison.
Yep. I love that one, especially on again, the Great Unclean One base.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Actually, my next Math Hammer video that I'm planning on doing is actually getting into a little bit more, getting into some geometry of why it like these AoE effects that are based off of like how far things are from your general, how they're way better on any model that has a bigger base.
Yeah, I was looking at the hammer blade on a Ragnarok today, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty good."
Yeah, it suddenly gets really powerful because as the overall diameter of the circle increases, the total area effective increases.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so I like that.
Yep. So that Pestilent Breath on the right model is really good.
And the right model is the GUO.
Well, I mean, how often we're not to the unit war scrolls yet, but I mean, how often is he going to be your general? It's going to be like all the time.
Yeah. If it's not the Glockin.
Yes, if it's not the Glockin. And there are a lot of good arguments for it to be the Glockin. All right. And then for mortals, we've got Hideous Visage. Subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units within 3 inches of your general. And
a lot of bravery, but not quite enough in this army. That's really powerful. You can stack it up. But I don't know. I keep wondering about the damage output to make that super effective.
What's interesting is that it's hanging out on Nurgle Mortal, and there's a bunch of debuffs to bravery in Slaves to Darkness.
Right.
So if you throw that on like a Chaos Lord on a demonic mount with a Nurgle mark.
Or a Manticore. I was looking at Manticore that earlier today.
Yeah. Or a Manticore.
Yep.
And run a ton of Chaos Knights that also debuff bravery. I mean, you can really start, and then plus there's other spells in Nurgle to debuff bravery. And one of the cycles of corruption makes your opponent reroll 1s in battle shock tests. I mean, I think you could build like one of the debuff lists you can build out of Nurgle is a bravery bomb list.
Yep.
Is it going to be the best one? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Right. I'm not sure that's the best build. It's a build, and it'll be cool. It'll be fun. Maybe even competitive. I'm not sure that's the build.
Yeah, and if you play it, it is guaranteed to make your opponent want to reach across the table and smack you.
Like when you rolled one on your bravery the other day.
Oh, don't even get me started on bravery. What else do we have? Overpowering stench. Reroll hits of 6 up for attacks that target your general in the combat phase.
There's a lot that can do that. There's a lot that can do that in this book.
Yes. And the fact that it's 6+ means that if you debuff your opponent's hit rolls, that could possibly cause that to not trigger.
Yeah.
Like if your opponent is at most hitting on a 5, like after modifiers, that will never trigger.
It's true. So it might not be worth it. I don't know.
Yeah, but again, it's in mortals, and a lot of like the hit debuff stuff is in demons.
Yep.
And then Virulent Contagion, improve the rank characteristic by 1 for attacks made by your general in the combat phase. Note that does not specify a weapon. That is all of them.
That's not bad, but I always tend to build my lists around what can my general do for my army and not himself. I tend to build to buff my whole army or units around him rather than just him. That's me.
Yeah. So what out of this do you actually see yourself taking in lists?
My favorites out of all of them, I actually wrote them down. I like the Bloated with Corruption for the Rotbringers. Pestilent Breath, I think already made a case for that for the demons. And Hideous Visage for the mortals.
Yeah.
Those are my favorites out of those. I mean, they might even change as the game changes. Who knows? But right now, those are the best for me. Those are the ones I would pick and kind of build my list around. Like I said, I'm focused on the Glotkin, big monsters, and just raining down the filth of mortal wounds all over the board. And it might be only 1 or 2 here or there, but every phase, and as the turns grind on, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at these, I'm not really super impressed by any of them. I think they're all reasonable. They're all good.
I like that I'm not super impressed because that means that there's a hard choice.
And it also makes it a much easier choice to make Glotkin your general.
Yeah, exactly. Paul and I have been talking a lot about the Glotkin, and he is. All right, well, when we get there.
Yeah, when we get there, which is like. He is bezonkers. He is currently ordered on his way.
Yep. Mine's already built and ready to rock and painted.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like Glotkin is. I feel like most Nurgle lists are going to have a Glotkin, a great unclean one, or both.
And it probably built, and that's the other fun thing is you can make your list like you want to make your list built around the Taliban and just flooding the board with bodies. But I think you can make a monster mash list like the old Tyranid lists in 40K and do really well. I have so many ideas. This book is just crazy with how many ideas I get from it. I love it.
Yes. And the other interesting thing too is like all of the Nurgle stuff that is beyond this book. I feel like we could do a whole separate like 6-hour show.
Holy, yeah, yep.
Like let's go through Slaves to Darkness in light of giving them all Nurgle marks in a Rotbringer list. Let's go through how Pestilence works. Let's go through how, like, all the Forge World stuff. Let's go, like, and this is, like, not even touching allies because they can basically ally with all of Chaos.
Yep. And all the elite, oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yep. So, I mean, realistically speaking, I see myself probably taking demon armies the most. which means I'm probably going to be running a Great Unclean One as my general. Which means, I mean, I think probably, I don't even know. Maybe Tainted Corruptor, maybe Pestilent Breath. Honestly, like, I'm so unimpressed by things, I think maybe Grandfather's Blessing. Because I feel like there's going to be times where you want to move the wheel, but you don't want to blow a spell on it.
Yeah, I think that's best on demons, especially if your general is a Great Unclean One, or you know, a monster with multiple wounds that can heal itself, that has great saves. It's going to be around for a while.
Yep. But if you're running some other list, I mean, there's some other really interesting stuff that you can do. Like, I feel like the demons got like the short end of the stick for command traits. I mean, I feel like
I kind of feel that way about the mortals. I feel like the demons did well. Rotbringers are awesome. I think like Rotbringers in general in this book are really good.
Yeah.
And that's my initial impression. Like, all of it's really good. Rotbringers are like an eighth of an inch better.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Rotbringers is that, like, individually things are not quite as good as demons, I don't think. So you get those stronger spells, you get those stronger command traits, you get those stronger artifacts.
And once all those stack up, holy shit.
Yeah. So, like, it balances out. Like, I think the demons, like, in a bubble are stronger, and then, like, so to balance that out, like, their command traits are weaker, and that's fine. Like, that's kind of how it's supposed to be. Like, I've had that conversation about Stormcast before too. Like, a lot of their stuff is not like outrageously strong, and like, dude, like, it's Stormcast. Like, every model in that range, like, holds its own and does not require being buffed by anything ever.
Yep.
So why would they get strong command traits? You know, talk about that whole game balance thing. It's internally balancing the army.
I feel like really good about this book. Like, it can hold its own against pretty much anything out there.
Yes. That was the conversation I was having with Tom.
Yeah.
The other day was, we were kind of like spitballing lists back and forth, and like he put together a list, and I was like, okay, this list looks cool, but what do its matchups actually look like? Like, what does it lose to? What does it win against? Like, on paper. And like, suddenly certain things start to fall apart.
In general, I see like Nurgle maybe having a hard time with Tzeentch, and that's probably it.
I think
what you build.
It depends on the build.
Yeah, if you get it, like we're talking about demons.
Yep.
Even KO is going to have a hard time if you're bringing 3 Great Unclean Ones, or the Glockkin and Great Unclean Ones. It's going to have a hard time picking those guys off.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger upside that KO has is that if you're running like a Zilfin list, you can probably, like, math says you can probably take out a Great Unclean One turn 1. But then that does not really stop much in the army.
Exactly. It's still coming at you pretty strong.
It's like, okay, fine, you took out my Great Unclean One. Now, what are you going to do against the rest of my army?
Yeah, here's 90 Plague Bearers.
Yeah, there's all of your Skyhooks are hitting on 6s. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
You know, all of your guys are -1 to hit. When they actually hit, I've got a 5-up ward save against you, even though you've got Ren 2 everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in what I am really hoping out of this Nurgle book and my speculation out of what's going to be in Legions of Nagash is that it's going to cause a shift in the metagame that makes more quote-unquote fair lists viable.
Yep.
Because like all of like this bullshit is just like hard counters to like Murder Host. Like Murder Host charges a unit of 30 Plague Bearers and they laugh.
Yep. This is the anti-alpha strike list, which is why you don't need to 1-drop or 2-drop your list. You can fill your list out and be fine, and really be fine.
Yeah, and in some situations, it's even better. Like if you have, again, we're gonna get into the individual scrolls eventually, but like the spell on like Festus, he's got a 14-inch range. Okay, you can go first. You're -1 to save for the rest of the game as soon as you get clear, like as soon as you get close to me.
Yep. Put him on with that. Hawkspringer on a Balewind.
Yeah, I mean, the question is like, what thing do you put on a Balewind?
Yeah, that's it. It's gonna be fun, kids.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Like, I mean, I think Festus on a Balewind is gonna be a good time.
Yep.
Just for like, if you go first, you don't really care if you accidentally fail to summon the Balewind turn 1. If you do summon the Balewind turn 1, it's like, okay, that's now like an auto lock to make one of your key units -1 to save for the rest of the game. He's a Rotbringer, so he can take Blades of Putrefaction, so that's going off on like a 6 and can go anywhere on the board. And like Blades of Putrefaction on a unit of 30 Plague Bearers is fucking ridiculous. Anyway, let's turn the page. Let's start looking at artifacts.
I'm really getting all excited about the stuff that's a little down the road, but I think we've been through this a few times. It's really cool.
Yeah. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. So, artifacts of power. Each different set of each different group, your Rotbringers, your Mortals, and your Demons each have their own set of 6 artifacts. And man, are a lot of these good.
A lot.
I mean, there is a serious choice to be made in artifacts. And it's like you want to find excuses to not just run 1 battalion, but 2.
Yeah.
I mean, like my first reaction to looking at all of these artifacts was, okay, how do I jam 2 battalions in a list?
How do I get the Taliban?
And I will tell you, you can get the Taliban and the Blight Cyst into one list. Like that actually works.
That's fine. But then you're at that point, like, is it worth that to have the artifacts so powerful? Do I need all? Am I weakening myself, my units? That's what I was like running into when I was going through lists. Like, is that worth it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love about this book is that it's definitely a book of choices.
Yeah, you have to make choices, like the contractor choices. You can get 3 different things, but you can only pick 2 of them.
Yes. Yeah, you definitely have to pick a path and go down.
Yep.
So our artifacts of contagion. So these are for Rotbringers. The Splithorn Helm. Roll a die. Well, basically gives a hero a 6 upward save.
Yeah.
Definitely like not that exciting, but good.
Yeah. That's the top.
This either makes a bearer a wizard, or if the bearer is already a wizard, it gives him an extra spell to cast and unbind each turn.
This is really good. Really good.
Yes. If you're going for a really heavy magic list, this is really good.
Really good.
But not to be it followed immediately by the Rust Fang, which is like the thing that immediately everybody's been talking about. At the start of the combat phase, pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the banner, subtract 1 from the save rolls for the rest of the battle.
And you can stack this. Oh, it's gross. Love it.
Yeah. You can't stack this particular ability on one unit more than once, but this will stack with Festus.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yep.
So, like, it's effectively like this is better than giving a unit rend 1. This gives all of your units rend 1 against a particular unit. And this doesn't have anything to do with, does it deal damage? Does it do X, Y, or Z? Like, no. It just has to be in combat at the start of the combat phase. That's real good.
And that's my case for the Lord of Affliction and Pusk Oils. Oh, so good. So sturdy.
Yes. The Flesh Peeler. In your hero phase, roll a die for each enemy unit within 6 inches. On a 5-up, the unit being rolled for suffers D3 mortal wounds.
I wish the Glotkin wasn't a unique character.
I mean, if you look across the Glotkin's profile, isn't it really abusive for him to not be?
Yeah.
I mean, like you read the Glotkin's profile and you suddenly understand why unique characters are not allowed to take artifacts and command traits.
He's crazy. I love it.
I don't know if they've necessarily gotten the pricing correct on all of the unique characters, but goddamn.
Yeah, he is.
They got it conceptually correct.
Yeah. He's so good.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, because that is such an awesome model. Yeah. I really hope that a lot of people buy Glotkins and we see a lot on the table, because it is a cool model. I love it.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to like the GW website or eBay or anything like that.
A little bit. I know he is super out of stock.
Like everything Nurgle is super out of stock.
Yeah.
Certain places have these in stock. Like I know Mini Stomp just got these back in stock.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, well, I'm sure now that I am saying that, they will be out of stock tomorrow.
Mini Stomp is awesome. Everybody should be ordering through Mini Stomp. I love that place.
Yeah, like I can't believe I didn't know that it existed. And now it's like I want to order all of my stuff there forever.
Yep.
So Bileheart, roll a die each time you allocate a wound or a mortal wound to the bearer in the combat phase. On a 4-up, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound after all attacks have been resolved. So you're basically reflecting all of your wounds on a 4-up. And it's doing it on wound allocation, not on wounds suffered.
Yeah, so, not damage, wounds.
Right. So this is like the step just before you roll your ward save. It's like, how many wounds are you allocating to that model to be rolled for a ward save, that's how many dice you get to throw, and on a 4-up it reflects a mortal wound back. So like you can like have this on a hero with a ward save, that the ward save saves everything, but they can still reflect mortal wounds back with this.
And this is why I wish they made like the Maggotkin, the Blobe, and all those guys. I wish there was a generic one we could take, because this artifact would be crazy on them.
Yes. Yeah, Nurgle definitely has an abundance of unique heroes.
Yeah.
Like I think there's like 18 heroes in Nurgle right now, like just in like the Maggotkin book, and half of them are unique.
It's pretty crazy.
And most of the ones that are not unique suck. So just throwing that out there. It's just the truth. It's like what's not unique that you're actually going to take in a game? The Great Unclean One, the Poxbringer,
Lord of Affliction.
Lord, yeah, yes,
he's awesome.
Maybe the Rotbringer Sorcerer.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's kind of a stretch.
Yep.
Because his spell that just sits on him is fucking terrible.
6-inch range. Ugh.
Yeah.
He's weak. You don't want him in combat or anywhere near it. Yeah.
Yep. And then the last one is the Feckin' Flask.
I like this one.
Use it once per battle at the start of your hero phase. Roll a die on a 2-up. It heals all wounds suffered by the bearer. On a 1, the bearer is slain and replaced with a Beast of Nurgle.
And if they remove the summoning points, might be not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something similar to this in the Khorne book, where the you double the attacks characteristic of the hero, but if they do no damage, they die and turn into a chaos spawn.
Right.
But at the moment, you have to pay the reinforcement points for the chaos spawn, which is like totally not worth it.
And it's only 60 points, but yeah.
Yeah, even so, like, who the hell's going to set aside 60 points just for maybe getting a chaos spawn, which is a total piece of garbage?
Yep.
All right. So our demonic boons. These are really stupid good. Our Noxious Nexus at the start of your hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 7 inches of the bearer. If the roll is equal to or less than the current battle round, the unit being rolled for suffers 1 mortal wound. For example, if it's the second battle round, enemy units would suffer mortal wounds on a 1 or a 2.
It's all right.
It is units, not models, so that's not that great.
Right, it's all right, yeah.
Yeah, it gets a meh. Nurgle's Nail, one of the most fun artifacts in the book. Melee weapon at the end of each combat. Roll 2d6 for each any model that was allocated wounds caused by Nurgle's Nail in the phase and was not slain. On a result of exactly 7, so a 1 in 6 chance, the model being rolled for is slain. Any other result has no effect.
So that's for each model that was wounded on a 7, which is an average roll, and how many permeations of 7 on 2d6?
It's a 1 in 6 chance. So it's effectively a 2-up. or I'm sorry, a 6-0.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean it's super random. Like I feel like this is awesome for like a fun game. But I mean, how much would you love to just like have your Lord of Afflictions like spike Archeon with this?
I would love it.
Or Nagash, or a Star Drake, or I don't know. Pick one, pick anything.
I think
A Maw anything. It,
and that's each. Let's see. And that's each enemy model. So you could, if you have multiple stat lines, you can spread. No, I can't. No, it's all right. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely fun in its. I like that it's not a once per game ability.
Exactly like the I have Nurgle.
Yeah. So I mean, this means that like if you get your dude into combat on top of one and you
which is easy,
survive the whole game, this guy gets 10 bites at the apple and a 1 in 6 chance he's going to spike somebody eventually.
Yep, exactly.
Possibly twice.
At that point, it'll be like Skaven Clan Rats.
Yeah.
The best game ever.
Woo! All right, so the Bountiful Swarm at the start of your hero phase, pick an enemy model within 3 inches of the bearer and roll a die. If the roll is greater than the model's wound characteristic, or hold on. If it's greater than the model's wound characteristic, then it's slain. So if a model with a wounds characteristic wounds characteristic of 4 up is slain by the swarm, you remove the model. You can add a Beast of Nurgle to your army set up within 1 inch of the slain model.
So once again, the Beast is back. If you don't have to pay reinforcement points, that's pretty cool. It's a nice blocker, something that can pile in afterwards.
Yeah, and like Nurgle does mortal wounds when it retreats, and it can retreat and charge,
which is fun.
So, yeah, I feel like if we end up in a world where we're not paying reinforcement points for all of these abilities that are not traditional summoning, that are getting other models into play, like. Sounds like Beast of Nurgle is like a thing that you want to own several of,
right?
And just like have thrown in at random situations. But otherwise, meh.
Yeah, not going in your list. Yeah. It's a pretty nice like chance to, I guess, on a 5+ and a 1 in 3 chance you have of completely murdering the average hero model. That's cool.
Yes.
Removing command. I like that too.
Yes. It is like specifically selecting a particular model.
Yep.
So that's definitely really good. Like, oh, you have a banner that does really good things. It's dead. Yep. I think this is probably my favorite artifact, like in terms of like gamey competitive play.
So
the Winter Stave, reroll hits of 6 for enemy units while they are within 12 inches of the bearer.
So you take this plus all the minuses to hit that you can stack up, and you just flip off Vanguard Wing.
Yeah, and the important thing here is that it is a roll of 6, not a roll of 6 or greater. So that is a natural 6 on the dice. That is checking for an unmodified die roll.
Yep.
So if you are massively debuffing your opponent's hit rolls, this is an extra debuff to their hit rolls. If they're already at a point where they're like -3 to hit, and they're like only hitting on 6s with rule of 1, then like
teabagging right here.
Yeah, this is just teabagging. This brings them down to a hit percentage of like 2%.
It's not good.
Yeah, it just says no to a unit completely. And it's a 12-inch bubble around the bearer, and it's on demons, so you can throw this on your Great Unclean One, who has a huge base.
Yep.
So your total area of this thing is fucking massive. Like, absolutely outrageous. We're talking like
small plate
30 inches across.
Yep.
That this bubble is going to be.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's just bonkers good. I think this is like an auto pick for like a Taliban debuff list.
100% agree.
Yeah. Tome of 1,000 Poxes, a wizard is +1 to cast. Really? Okay. Yeah. That seems like an auto pick in a lot of situations too.
Most of the spells go off on a 7, which is average. So getting a +1 to that. I didn't look at your average roll video yet, but I mean, this seems like really good.
Yeah, I mean, going off on a 7 is about 60% odds.
Yep.
And bringing it to a 6 makes it like 70 something. So you're going from like 3 out of 5 to 3 out of 4. It's really strong on those 7-up spells to get that +1. Alternatively, you can also throw this on your Great Unclean One that has the Bioblade so that he gets +2 to cast everything. Now he's practically auto-casting all of his spells.
So good.
But I see this more useful, like that going on like a Poxbringer.
On the Balewind.
Yeah. Like summon your Balewind on a 6. Now all your spells are going off on a 5. Put like your most valuable spell on him that has doubled range. And is +2 to cast. Like that is super dirty.
I like it.
Yeah. And then there's the Endless Gift. At the start of the Battle phase, roll a die for each wound that was allocated to the model during the same turn. On a 4-up, the wound is healed. So if your dudes don't die, they heal half their wounds back.
Right.
Like that's just ridiculous. That's wrong.
Oh, it's crazy. The Battle Shock phase. So 2 times per round.
Yes.
They're healing.
It's not your Battle Shock phase. It is the Battle Shock phase.
For each wound allocated.
Yeah. So for even wounds that are saved with Disgusting Resilience or some equivalent ability, like you're potentially rolling more dice than damage that you inflicted or that was
exactly. So you could potentially never like take damage on your Great Unclean Ones.
Yeah, it basically puts your opponent in a position of having to take them from 16 to 0 in one turn, or it's never going to happen.
Which KO could do, Goutfire can do, and who else? Nobody. I think that's it. I think that's the math on that one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Murder Host if you play like an idiot.
Yeah, like you're not taking, like in the first turn, if they're not taking the debuffs, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, like this is your demonic boons are a really hard selection.
Yeah.
Like all of these are good in different circumstances.
So you want to take at least one battalion. I'm guessing.
Yeah. I think the artifacts out of this book are so good that it's like you get extra incentive for taking battalions because you want battalions to decrease your drops anyway, and then you get a second artifact.
And then you add in, like, you're playing Maggotkin. You don't care how many drops you have. And then, like, the more of certain stuff you have, the more powerful your army gets. I don't know. It's so well done that I guess there is no wrong choice. You can play willy-nilly and just build a list where you make 30 drops and still be great. Or you can make your list so you have 1 drop and you're still great. There's no real alpha strike per se, I think, in this list, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is really good at, like, alpha block.
Right, exactly. Alpha block, and then we're going to run like 11 inches up the board and punch you in the face, and then we're going to mortal wound you. We're only going to deal like 60 to 80 mortal wounds across the board, but you know, you're probably going to be okay.
Yep.
It's nuts.
All right. And our plague-ridden gifts, these are our regular Nurgle mortal heroes. The Virulent Blade, pick one of your bearer's melee weapons. Add 1 to the damage characteristic if it has a 5+ to wound. Throw that one in the garbage can. Moving on, Fortide Shroud. Fortid Shroud? Shroud? I don't know.
Fetid.
Fetid?
Yep.
Whatever. Reroll hits of 6+. Reroll
That's all right. You have a lot of ways
to more for attacks that target the bearer in the combat phase.
That's all right. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get that, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Too much vodka. What's the thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm already a full drink down the hole. So I'd like to try to not black out for this particular.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do too, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the last one was pretty rough, folks. There are some patchy memories from our last Warhammered. It was a good time, though.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this is a valuable experience for everybody, despite our intoxication and slurring words and saying things completely wrong and blurred vision. That's currently an issue for me over here. Speaking of blurred vision, the eye of Nurgle.
Both of them, one fell swoop. Good job.
Once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can roll 2d6. If there are any enemy models within 12 inches of the bearer, if the result is exactly 7, the closest enemy model is slain.
Garbage.
Yeah, I mean,
Great garbage choice.
I mean, it's similar to the other one, except this is once per game.
And I feel like you skipped one here too.
Yep, I did.
And the best one, in my opinion.
Yes. Enemy units within 3 inches of the bearer at the end of the movement phase suffer D3 mortal wounds.
Look at that. That is not like on a 4+ or a 6+. That's just like, fuck you, take D3 mortal wounds to every unit.
Yes.
I like that one a lot.
And that's a situation where you can easily take your hero, place them in range of 2 to 3 enemy units, and say, like this is at the end of the movement phase. So it's like, okay, do you want D3 wounds or do you want to retreat out of combat and let my guy survive?
With my beast.
Yeah.
My beast nearby. The beast can't take it, but yeah, nearby.
Yeah. So the Carrion Dirge, subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units while they're within 12 inches of the bearer.
So this is the bravery bomb stacking up here. Yeah,
more bravery bombing. I mean, stacked with the command trait, isn't that like -4 to bravery?
Yeah. Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't there units with 4 bravery?
There are.
Shield of Growths. You can re-roll failed saves for the bearer if the roll equals or is equal to or less than the number of wounds currently allocated to the bearer. That's shitty.
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah.
Like the thing is like if you run across any of the artifacts in this book that are like meh, it's like no, that's actually total shit compared to everything else in the book. So like fuck it, like ignore that exists and take something good because you have plenty of options that are good. So I'm seeing just out of artifacts and command traits, like a bravery bomb list is possible.
It is.
Except there's so many things. Like I thought about this concept before with Khorne, and there's so many things that make you immune to battle shock that I'm just like,
who cares?
Like I feel like this sounds better on paper than it actually is.
Totally agree. And that's why I have been focused on mortal wounds, because there is not a lot of stuff that says, I'm not going to take mortal wounds.
Yeah. Apart from Nurgle and Fire Slayers.
Yeah, Fire Slayers are cool. Stormcast, they're screwed.
Yeah, Stormcast have nothing. Yeah, asshole. Stormcast have nothing against mortal wounds. All right, so the lores of Nurgle, the magic. This is where all the magic happens.
True.
So all of your Nurgle wizards get foul regenesis. Goes off on a 7. You can just move the stage of corruption to wherever you want it to be. Really super good. Goes off on a 7 though, so you're probably going to want to throw that or actually cast that off of somebody that's getting +1 to save from something, or not +1 to save, +1 to cast from something. Whether it's a Balewind or a Great Unclean One stabbing himself or the tome that gives you +1 to cast. One of those 3 options, or standing next to arcane terrain. To actually, have a pretty solid chance of getting what you want out of that. So our Lore of Malignance, this is for Rotbringers. Blades of Putrefaction, casting value of 7. Pick a friendly unit within 14 inches. It does a mortal wound on 6+ to hit until your next hero phase. So it basically turns your plague bearers into bloodletters until end of turn.
And it's good against with the Blade Kings too, and the Pluscoils, because they re-roll if they're within a certain amount of inches of a hero.
Yes.
Give them more chances at 6s.
Yes. And the thing that I've seen come up multiple times in forums, and I would just like to set the record straight right now for everybody that's listening. If you're running Blight Kings or Pluscoils, when they get their exploding hits on 6s, all of those extra hits do not turn into mortal wounds. They do not.
People think they turn into mortal wounds?
Yes, because the rationale that they're going under is you have to roll a 6+ to hit to get the exploding hits. And those exploding hits, they're arguing, are therefore the result of rolling a 6 up to hit and therefore do mortal wounds.
It's just wounds to get like your opponent's going to get saves.
Right. Like the additional hits that are generated are not generated on a 6 up to hit. They are generated by an ability that has no hit roll. Therefore, they do not generate mortal wounds with Blades of Putrefaction.
I'm finding it a little bit hard to believe that people are arguing this. It's not mortal wounds. It's just wounds as it says in front of me.
This is why I avoid forums and Facebook groups, because I just see people say things that are not that bright, and I have a really hard time not being like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
What? Yeah, I had no problem reading that and figuring that out.
Yeah.
That does not read like in no gamey perspective. And I will try and find a gaming perspective for fun, because that's just the way my brain works. I don't see that whatsoever. I have no idea how people jump to that conclusion. Yes, they're wounds, but your opponent is going to get saves.
Yes.
That's fucking crazy. Sorry.
Yeah. The nice thing with this is that it is not the Bloodletter ability, it is the Concussor ability. So you are getting mortal wounds in addition to ordinary damage. So it, like, the 6 up to hit generates a mortal wound, and then you continue rolling for wounds and damage. Which is actually better than Bloodletters.
It says right there, in addition.
Yes.
Not it deals mortal wounds. I don't get it.
Yes. I try. People try to rules lawyer awfully hard, and people think they're clever.
They're dicks.
That's not how it works. It's not how it works. All right. So Rancid Visitations. Let's move off of something written with stupidity. Rancid Visitations is a casting value of 6. Successfully cast an enemy unit within 3 inches of the caster. Suffers 1 mortal wound for each model in the unit that is within 3 inches of the caster.
I like that one too.
Yeah. That's just like you throw that on a Great Unclean one and say, or actually, no, I can't.
Boards at me. Send them at me.
Yeah, throw it on Glotkin. This can go on Glotkin.
Exactly.
Come at me, bro.
He's a Rotbringer.
Yep. He's
got all 3 keywords.
Yes, he does, unfortunately.
Freaking awesome.
Yep. So Gift of Contagion, I actually really like this spell too. Goes off on a 6, pick a unit within 18 inches. I feel like that 18 has to be a misprint. Roll a die on 2 to 3. The unit is -1 to hit, 3 to 4, -1 to wound, 5 to 6, -1 to save.
I don't think it's a misprint. I think it's a copy and paste from 40K.
Oh. I am not familiar with 40K, so I do not know.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my Death Guard spells.
Yeah. That is definitely good. If I'm taking more than one Rotbringer wizard, I'm probably taking Blades of Putrefaction and Gift of Contagion. I think Rancid Visitations it seems good, but it's so situational. Like Gift of Contagion and Blades of Putrefaction are just like always good.
Because they have a good range, yeah.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing about Blades of Putrefaction is that affects all of the attacks coming off of that model. It's not like pick a particular weapon or a particular attack profile.
So you put it on your buffed up drones or Puscoils and just giggle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a buffed up unit of drones with either the Great Unclean One or the Glotkin and Nurgle hero within 7 inches of them. They're +2 on each of their attacks, plus all of their attacks times 3 models. I believe it gets them to 34 attacks. So the Blades of Putrefaction will be doing, on average, 6 to 7 mortal wounds, plus their regular damage.
Yeah, and the Puscoils have even more attacks, I think. I think it got a little higher than that with the Puscoils.
Yeah.
It was nuts. So that spell on either one is pretty freaking nuts.
Yeah. Or even just a unit of 30 Plague Bearers with doubled hits from either the Guo or the Glotkin.
Glotkin is the best.
Glotkin is awesome. And I just... Like, the only thing is, like, I want the Great Unclean One, too.
And there's no reason not to take both.
I mean, there's some reasons to not take both. But
not very good.
They're not very good reasons. All right. So the lore of virulence. This is for your Nurgle demons. Favored poxes. Goes off on a 7. Pick an enemy unit within 14 inches. Subtract 1 to hit, wound, and save for that unit until the caster moves, attempts to cast a spell, or is slain.
And you had sent me a list with this on a Great Unclean One, which I totally am against. Because you want your Great Unclean One moving and doing this thing and reaching over units of Plague Bearers and smashing them with ranged weapons. This is a great case for taking the Veilwind with a Pox Bringer.
Yes. And the Tome.
It's just that, and then next to the feckin' Narmal.
Yeah. Crazy. Yep. Our next one, Glorious Afflictions, goes off on a 5. Pick an enemy unit in 21 inches. The unit's move characteristic and any run or charge moves are halved until your next hero phase. In addition, units that can fly cannot do so until your next hero phase.
That is real board control right there.
Yeah. Like, I mean, how many things is that just a giant fuck you to?
Yeah. A lot of things. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hilarious fuck you to anything Dwarven.
It can move 1.5 inches.
Yeah. You guys can stumble around drunkenly, talk amongst yourselves.
But
and Sumptuous Pestilence goes off on a 6. Each enemy unit within 7 inches of the caster suffers 1 mortal wound. Units with more than 5 models suffer D3 mortal wounds.
Not bad. Pretty good. I like it.
I feel like Favored Poxes is really the good one out of this.
Yep. If you're set up for it, great.
But I mean, if you're in a position where you have multiple demon casters, like Favored Poxes first, and then probably Sumptuous Pestilence on whatever your opponent is going to be like grinding up on.
Yeah.
Although,
I'd almost take Glorious Afflictions toward the second spell.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible too. Although, like, I don't know what that would do to a Murder Host's special moves or the
be fun to figure out.
Destruction special moves.
Yep.
I think that would not have any impact on those. I mean, so they're still going to hustle across the table.
Good point.
I mean, they're going to have a little bit less hustle, but they're probably getting in your face turn 1 anyway. But with the 21-inch range, you're not going to hit them turn 1. So, I don't know. I feel like this is more like later game board control where you just stop your opponent from getting into position where you want them to be.
Yep.
And then finally, our Lore of Foulness.
Magnificent movies.
Yes. I'm just going to go with Magnificent Boobies because that seems like a legitimate pronunciation for that artifact. Goes off on a 7. If successfully cast, pick an enemy hero within 21 inches. It suffers D3 mortal wounds, and it is -1 to cast and unbind and hit. Like, fuck you, Zinch.
Yeah.
That's just like, that's another thing that's like, throw your dude on a Balewind and start picking off your opponent's Zinch shit.
Yep.
All right. So Plague Squall goes off on a 6. Roll 7 dice for each 6. Pick an enemy unit visible to the caster. Unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If you roll for more than 1 6, you have to pick different enemy units. Interesting thing here is that there is no range anywhere on this spell.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes off on a 6.
Which is pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah. So you're going to do like 1 or 2 D3 mortal wounds at, wherever on the table you feel like it.
Right. And if you're adding it up with the speculative normal, all the other command traits, all the other spells, artifacts, it's freaking nuts.
Yep.
So
and then our final spell, the Cloying Quagmire, casting value of 5. Pick an enemy unit in 14 inches, roll a die, compare the enemy's save characteristic. If the roll is equal to or greater than the save characteristic, the unit suffers D6 mortal wounds.
Too much random rolling.
Somewhat too much random rolling, but this is really rough against Stormcast. How many 3-up saves do they have?
It's true.
This is just like Ice Stormcast heroes. I've iced off a lot of heroes. This is a hero sniping spell.
I think I imagine more like Iron Jaws and Goblins that would just be like, well, I don't care. Cool. You roll a 5+, I don't care.
Yep.
Oh, you got me.
Right. Path to Glory. We are not going to review all the Path to Glory stuff right now. Just as a side note, have you ever actually heard anybody playing Path to Glory at all?
Can I tell you a fun story?
Absolutely.
The way I got playing Warhammer Fantasy is playing Path to Glory.
Huh.
It was my favorite thing to play.
Very interesting. Since then, have you played it in AOS whatsoever?
No. Nope, not once.
Yep.
And that was many editions ago. That might have been 5th to 6th. I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
Yep. All right. So we are finally on to our battalions.
Yep. Talk about this one. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Okay. I'll talk about this one and how you're never going to be able to actually fit this army into a match play game, and its ability isn't that exciting. In the rampant disease stage of the cycle of corruption, the enemy Affected by rampant disease within 14 inches of a unit from the battalion suffered D6 instead of D3 mortal wounds. In addition, the Thrumblepox the Giving, the unclean one, is on the battlefield. The rampant disease stage of the cycle of corruption. D6 enemy units are affected instead of D3. The problem is like this takes 3 battalions plus other stuff potentially. Like you're looking at like 700 points of battalions. And then you need to form an army around it. So this is like a narrative play battalion, or maybe like a mega battle sort of game, but not really worth anything in particular. This is the good one though, and I feel like I should not talk about this without Des present, because I think this is like the battalion I think that we're going to see at top tables. That this is going to be the thing that I think is going to be the most popular Nurgle battalion. That's going to be the most competitive. So general structure, you can take up to 1 grade unclean one, 1, 2, 3 heralds in any combination, 4 to 7 units of plague bearers or plague drones, and 0 to 3 units of beasts of Nurgle or Nurglings. The important thing here is the droning masses. All the units in the battalion heal 1 wound in your hero phase, and all of your units of plague bearers get D3 models returned to them at the start of your hero phase. This is just like dumb good. Basically, you get your great unclean one, which you're probably going to play anyway. Your heroes, you probably want a Poxbringer anyway. 4 to 7 units of fill in your battle line, plus a unit of plague drones, probably, which you're probably going to want to play anyway. I mean, this is basically like all of this. This is like default. You're taking all of these things in this army anyway. Here, let's make them better, and you get an extra artifact. This just seems super good. And then if you max out the battalion in the plague bearers and plague drones, you get extra contagion points, which currently doesn't seem like a super valuable thing to do. But if we end up in a world where we can summon things without necessarily having the reserve points for them, then contagion points start looking a lot better. Other than that, I mean, we're basically stuck with just summoning trees for the most part, which I'm not convinced is bad. But yeah, you back?
I'm back. I'm glad you have the gift of gab, because gotta break the seal sometime.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to start saving some milk jugs so I can make trucker bombs.
I have a few empty bottles down here that I could use for trucker bombs if necessary. I was talking about how the Taliban is awesome, and this is basically like the default battalion, I think, for competitive Nurgle armies.
Oh, really? Let's see.
I mean, because you probably want to run a great unclean one, but you have the option not to.
Right.
You're probably going to want to run a Poxbringer.
Oh, we're at the. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, the Taliban is solid. It's a solid.
Yeah. And then 4 to 7 units, and one of them is core.
So you can run all core and be all set, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can run 4 units of plague bearers. Bam, your battle line's all set. Plus, they're like, if you run like 2 units of 30 and 2 units of 10, or 2 units of 30, a unit of 10, and a unit of drones. Battle line is taken care of. You're all set. You're healing wounds. You're returning slain models. And you have the option to include beasts of Nurgle and Nurglings if you so choose. You can include more plague drones if you so choose.
Which I like. You can include your battle line. You want to max your plague bearers if you can. But plague drones, when buffed up with the GUO's command ability, are really nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, those plague drones can throw a lot of damage around. Or maybe not damage. They can throw a lot of attacks around.
Attacks, and hope damage goes through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's sort of how Nurgle works. Like, you're really not buffing your guys, you're debuffing your opponent, so you're just kind of praying your attacks get through all of their debuffs.
Yep.
But yeah, I think because of the extra resilience of all of this, also note this is an all demon battalion, so like all of these guys have 5 up ward saves, and they heal, and they're returning models. And they have access to a couple of the best spells in the book.
I think this is nice. Personally, I think it's nice. It is a lot of points for what it does. I'm kind of on the opposite end of this one. I think it's nice, but a lot of points for what it does. I don't think D3 Plague Bearers for 220 points is great. For I guess you get an extra artifact too. But
yeah, I mean the extra artifact is really powerful. Getting your list down to like 1 to 3 drops is really powerful.
But that's the thing is like I think the best part of this is the D3 Plague Bearers. Not great. Extra artifact can be great. Going first. You're not really alpha striking. You can take an alpha strike.
You're not alpha striking, but you're also potentially putting yourself in the position to at least have the choice.
That's true. And you do have all the crazy movement buffs. So you're giving yourself the chance to be potentially in combat, or at least in your enemy's deployment zone. Turn 1, first turn.
Yep.
Have some mortal wounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad choice, but I wouldn't pick this first.
Yeah, for me personally, this is the basis of the force that I'm building.
Yep.
I think this is one of the best options right now.
I might be crazy, but I think I might not take any battalions. I think I might just throw models down and just
yeah, I mean, I think the problem with that is that there's too many good artifacts. Yeah, it's like it's just such a hard choice.
I am thinking about one of these battalions. We'll get to it.
Yep. Next one, the Thricefold Befoulment.
Oh my God, we're there.
Yeah. Like the silliest battalion in the book.
I love it. I think it's awesome.
Just 3 great unclean ones, and we would be remiss if we did not point out that it is great unclean one keyword, not great unclean one name of unit. Yeah. So you can go great unclean one, Rodigus, exalted great unclean one.
And just fill things up. Just fill them all the way up.
Yeah. And you know what? If you do that, it's still only like 1,000 points.
Yeah. And you don't care, like, the hungry for the plague god's praise. That's cool.
Yep.
Whoa, hold on a second. Reroll hit rolls of 1 per models in this battalion while they're within 14 inches of a model from this battalion. So that doesn't discern between combat and shooting. That's not bad.
Yep.
You can reroll wound rolls of 1 if within 14 inches of 2 other models, which is still a pretty good spread. And it doesn't quite. Actually, you could probably spread your models across the board, and in Duality of Death, just flip people off.
Yeah. I mean, I think the real strength here is the Plague Storm of Nurgle. Or if they're if you have all 3 of them within 7 inches of each other, that Plague Storm goes from D3 to 3D3.
And that is filthy. If anyone's ever played Storm Fiends with Warp Fire Throwers, you know how filthy that is. Paul, do you have any examples of how filthy that is?
Go fuck yourself.
That's the best response I could have ever expected. I love it.
You know what? We're done talking about this battalion. Fuck it. You're not allowed to do that. That is all. So, Nurgle's Menagerie. So this is the ridiculous one with Horticulus Slimux, 3 Beasts of Nurgle and up to 3 units of Plague Drones, Beasts of Nurgle, and Nurglings. You can cultivate the garden every turn. And what is this other thing? The Utterly Revolting. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units within 14 inches of 7 or more models from the battalion.
That might be fun with the bravery bomb list.
Yeah.
We could do it fairly cheap.
But it's 7 or more models from this battalion, which means like you basically, to make that work effectively, you got to run like a fuckload of Nurglings.
Yeah, yep, that's it.
Which, I mean, I'm not necessarily sure that's a bad thing.
Right now, at the state summoning it is in, it's all right.
Yeah.
If summoning changes to where there's no more reinforcement points, this gets very, very interesting.
Yes. I think this is like this one just takes you to Flavor Town. Like you're planting the garden of Nurgle everywhere.
Yep.
And that is awesome. And it uses Horticulus Slimux, who is, I mean, an awesome model.
That's a cool model, yep.
Yeah, kind of disappointing that he's not better, but he's still cool.
Does he do 3D3 mortal wounds?
I'm sure he's got some fucking ability that does D3 mortal wounds like everything else in this army.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, that's really cool. I think it's fluffy right now. If they change summoning to where you don't have to pay reinforcement points, it becomes competitive.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Because the big thing is then you're planting trees all over the place, you're getting tons of contagion points and summoning things onto the battlefield.
Exactly. Oh.
I
love a lot of that. I really like it.
Yeah, it's definitely really cool and really fun and interesting. We'll see where it goes, I think.
Yeah, if there are changes to the summoning mechanics, like after the thrice-fold befoulment, that becomes my first favorite.
Yep. Blessed Sons, another mega battalion. Although I did not notice before that this is just a plague cyst that includes a sorcerer, harbinger of decay, and at least 4 units of putrid blight kings. So that can just kind of make this, and it has that like the Stormcast ability of like any other. Oh, excuse me. Any other number of Rotbringer units. So this is like your way to 1-drop an army.
Yep.
And what abilities do we have? Units in this battalion do not have to take battle shock tests they're within Well, while they have 7 or more models, that's pretty good.
200 points.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
And then the Blessed Bile Plate reroll saves of 1 for models in this battalion. That's okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. Once you start adding up the battalion points, though, it's 200 for the Blessed Sons. And
220, I think, for the Blight Cyst.
Yeah, then you're at 440 points. You're at about a quarter of your army. And that's the point I'm at too with this book. Like looking through it, like, is it worth it to lose that many points in units? I could really add synergy to my army to add maybe a different sort of synergy. I don't know.
Yeah. But it lets you 1-drop your army. And you get 2 artifacts out of it.
But you get speed out of this. You have the speed to like put yourself in a position you want to be in if you get the first turn.
I mean, you can take any
real question with
number of Rotbringer units, which includes Lord of Afflictions and the Buskoils.
Does it include Gutrot Spume?
Yes.
Okay, so that's this really could be a win.
Yeah, I mean it could work.
Yeah, with Gutrot Spume like outflanking with a unit of Blight Knights and the Puskoils with all their speed. Yeah, this is actually probably not bad.
Yeah, so then we mix that with Plague Cyst. You reroll failed hit rolls for units in this battalion that are affected by the wanton slaughter of the Lord of Plagues. Instead of rerolling only hits of 1, so you reroll everything.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Because you're fishing for 6s with these guys.
Yep. And then horribly contagious in your hero phase. Roll the dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of any units in the battalion. On a 6-up, they get D3 mortal wounds.
Probably going to have a lot of models in that battalion.
Yep.
Units. 4. That's all right.
Yeah.
There were 4 and 6 chance. I don't know. As far as that ability goes, it's all right. Rerolling all your hits is awesome.
Yeah. This one I think is like the better one of the two, though.
Yeah, I agree.
This gives all of your Blight Lords rend 1, and anything that they are fighting against loses their cover save.
Yeah, so that's effectively a rend 2.
Yeah, well, only against things in cover.
Yeah. And then if you're using this battalion and all your debuffs to saves, could be awful to your opponent. Just awful.
Yeah, you're just gonna slice through armor. So I mean, doing that in the right way is incredibly powerful. And the Lord of Blights gives all of your guys shooting attacks.
It's a very meh shooting attack, but
I mean, you know,
it's a bonus.
It's more attacks. Don't
Yeah.
scoff at more attacks.
And the -1 to rend is awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. Affliction Cyst. This one confuses the shit out of me because it lets you deep strike guys, and it also lets you your Lord of Afflictions have a bubble effect instead of selecting 1 unit. So it's like 2 abilities going in like opposite directions.
Could still be good. Cause you can really like if you if you ignore the droning sky and you just use his command ability to give the +8 inches to movement, and you have the bell and you have the second normal.
I mean, you can go with like low drops in this list, and just really put together something that's going to mess up your opponent really bad.
And fast.
Yep. I don't think this is like the list, though. Like, I think it's just it's not reliable enough to alpha strike, I don't think, to really work, and it's not doing anything else inherently in the battalion that really is boosting your damage output.
Right.
So you need to run other stuff outside of the battalion for abilities and spell casting to make that happen.
Multiple drop lists, yeah.
Yeah, it like running like 5 drops in a list that wants to alpha strike just doesn't mix. So I don't know. I feel like this one's cool, but it falls a little flat to me.
I agree.
All right, so what else we got? That's it. We're on to units. I'm almost saying we've been doing at this for a while now. You want to call it here and perhaps retake up the mantle and start actually looking at the war scrolls in a future video?
Yeah, I definitely can do that.
Yeah, because I am ready for sleep. All right, well, it's been fun. We got through all of the command traits and battalions and spell lores and all of that stuff. Feel free to leave questions and comments down below. I am intoxicated. I need to go pass out in bed. I didn't black out this time, and I don't think I'm going to vomit. So that's good.
Well, we'll build up your immunity.
Dude, oh, man. My liver just cannot take this anymore. Like, I'm not in college anymore. I did some dumb shit in college. And my liver is fully recovered from that. And it's just like, no, you're not going to do that. I had a great night of bonding with my wife where we both like drank way too much at a party and like we were sharing a bathroom. Like I was throwing up in the sink and she was throwing up in the toilet. It was great.
Was that the last one?
Oh God, no.
I thought you were talking about the last one for a second. I was like, oh.
Oh no. That was a party in college though. Yeah. Yeah. We got some stories. There's some stories. My birthday's coming up though. We might go old school for my birthday. We'll see. We'll see who else's liver is up for it.
When's your birthday?
End of February. So
my liver is always up to things, but
yep.
This time.
All right, kids. Well, that's going to be all for now. I think next time we will attack the War Scrolls.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe another night soon. Who knows? There is just so much to this book, and going through all of those War Scrolls sounds really painful right now because there's a lot to talk about in those. We'll be here all friggin' night if we do that.
And drinking and doing this is fun, but yeah, I can see it being a little tough to get through all the War Scrolls tonight.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them there.
All right. Let me exit out of this for a moment. That. Can I not exit out of this? What am I doing here?
You've lost the ability. You're doing all crazy stuff.
Stop sharing. That was the first thing that I needed to do. And now I'm here, and now I am no longer locked on me. I'm playing with scissors. That's always a good time, too.
Oh, was that the noise the whole time?
What's up?
Was that the noise the whole time? You're doing something over there. I don't know what.
Oh, dude, I fidget with stuff nonstop. I was spinning Horticulus for a little while. Got my cell phone over here. Things were happening. Things were happening. Hey, there's actually people watching this live. How about that?
Yep.
I have not. I mean, I've been locked onto a PDF the whole time, so I didn't see viewers. So thank you all for watching us live. Thank you to all of the future viewers.
I have multiple machines, so I keep an eye out.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I need to. You know, I don't know. I'm short on desk space for like multiple monitors set up.
I have 3 monitors, 3 27-inch monitors.
I know.
Like the Star Trek Enterprise in here.
Or an accounting firm.
Or an accounting firm. It's kind of like
that was my old setup, was like 3 huge monitors. Got the tax return and your stupid documents and somebody else's stupid emails.
That's weird. My setup.
What's up?
How you fuck things up and how I'm gonna fix it, and and then your email, how you fucked it up. That's my job.
Yeah. Many stories, many horror shows to tell.
Yep.
We're not
kids. Age of Sigmar shit.
Yeah.
So, are you up for this tomorrow night? I'm up for this tomorrow night.
Yeah, we could bring this back tomorrow night. I think I'm available tomorrow night, and we can hit those war scrolls like they owe us money. And yeah, until then, we will see you all later.